All right, welcome. My name is Dr. Spencer Erickson, and from Tipview Chiropractic, and we are doing the Life Without Fear podcast. And today, I wanted to welcome our guest Eddie Villa,
Hi, everybody.
who is who's been a longtime patient of mine, actually.
Yes.
Really
Loyal.
excellent.
Absolutely loyal. I will never go to another chiropractor for the rest of my life as long as this man is doing what he's doing.
I appreciate that.
That's how it is.
And I believe him. He and his family have just been awesome. We really love having them in the office. So what he's doing now is he's now let me make sure that I say this right. You're a strengths coach.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you consider yourself. And what we're going to be talking about today is Clifton Strengths. And I was introduced to this, probably 4 or 5 years ago, long before I met you, because I already had my
That's
profile done. And somebody said, well, why don't you find out what your strengths are? And we can figure out kind of how to use those strengths to better your practice, better yourself as a person. And so I went through it, and it cost a little bit of money, but I went ahead and made the investment, and I went through the process of filling out the questionnaires and all that stuff. And now I've got my strengths profile. I need to update it now because it has been a few years, and I do want to see if I've made any changes so that I can focus on those things. Now, really quickly, Eddie, why don't you give us a background on you and what you're doing here?
Sure. So I've been an entrepreneur for quite a while now, since 2011. And one of the businesses that I'm involved in is a network marketing company. And like all network marketing companies, if you're going to get involved in network marketing, get ready for self-development. And that means lots and lots of personality tests that are everywhere. Yeah. But they all frustrate me because I just feel like they all don't really nail who I am. So when I got introduced to strengths, I learned some cool things about strengths. That was about how we are unique, but not just like unique compared to the people I hang out with, like compared to anybody on the planet, compared to anybody that's ever been or ever will be. Like it's that big. And as soon as I like that popped into my head, I became obsessed, started coaching thousands of people for free for over a year to just try to understand what all this means and how to use it. And it's been a massive blessing. It's built a business for me. It's helped me improve my marriage with my wife Angela and my 7 children, and then help me help amazing people like you. And so it's just awesome. There's so much coolness here.
It really is. Now, one thing that, because I've gone through and watched videos that you've done, and one thing that we do have to point out is this is much different than a personality test.
Yeah, very different.
Because according to, if you do the color code test, I'm mostly blue. And if we do a different type, then I'm very analytical. And there are things very telling about those, and I do fall into certain categories. So what exactly about strengths is different than personality?
Okay, so strengths just focuses on where you are best with everything you do. But what's cool about the data and the research that Gallup has done is it helps you to articulate exactly who you are and how you can be like most people or you can be completely unique. But then it gives you a step-by-step. Okay, this is specifically how you do things. And it also tells you what you care about most, that has to be honored with everything you do or you hesitate, right? There's so many things. What else? So the other thing is it also shows you who you're trying to be when you're doubting yourself. Now, this is fascinating when we're talking about the bottom strengths, for example. It's like when you feel de-energized and drained, what is it you're trying to do that's just not going to work? And then this strength report actually shows you what that is and helps you shift back into where you should be, which is going to give you everything you want. Right. So that's kind of those are some general ideas.
Okay, so inevitably when you talk about strengths, what immediately comes to mind is weaknesses. Now I was looking through the website on Gallup.
Yeah.
This is all done through Gallup, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm looking through the website, and it talks about weaknesses, which I know is something you never talk about. You stay away, you shy away from the weaknesses. And what they say on the website is anything, or they define a weakness as anything that inhibits you or prevents you from succeeding.
Yeah, that's like. And
so
why are we talking about
what's
it? Right, there's no changing it. It's always going to inhibit you. It's always going to keep you from growing. Why are we focusing on it? Right,
exactly. So if we're looking at my list, and there are 34 different areas, right? So my lowest areas are not necessarily weaknesses of mine.
Right.
They're just my weakest strengths, or
right?
That's exactly least strong strengths.
Exactly, the most ineffective ones you have, and
So,
they end up actually doing things in the opposite of what you want. Like looking at your 34th strength in particular, we can talk about this in a minute, but this strength right here is so not who you are. It is the opposite of who you are. But I can see that being a strength that you think you would need in order to be successful.
Right.
Right. And that goes across the board for every single person, no matter what that strength is, no matter who I have in front of me. I can always see how that one is the opposite of who they are. And that's the thing that like cracks me up, especially when I'm looking at yours. But we can talk about that whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready.
And we will. I don't mind talking about my strengths and my least strengths, because it's interesting to me as I've gone through this. There are 34 different categories, and how many questions are there in the questionnaire?
177.
It's a lot of questions, and so what they're trying to do is they're trying to pinpoint really and truly who you are. Mm-hmm. It's not just what category of people do you belong in, and what are your general abilities versus the rest of the population. It's really trying to figure out who you are, so you can figure out how you're defining yourself versus how you kind of should be defining yourself.
Okay.
Is that?
I would go with that. No, I would go with that. I mean, there's a million different ways we can explain this. I like your way.
Absolutely.
I like that.
And what I discovered was that, and this is something that I've kind of known inherently all along, is I live in here. A lot of people live in here, and a lot of people live, expressively.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing. I know that you all listen to this podcast because you come here, you listen to this guy drop wisdom. And that's because the majority of his energy comes into this place here. Some people's energy comes here, and some people's energy is the whole body. As you can see, as I talk, I can't talk without doing this.
Right.
Right. So this is where you and I are very different.
Right. Which is great.
Yes.
We don't all want to be the same.
Right.
But understanding that, it helps me to know how am I better able to express myself to patients when they come in, explain things to people. What am I good at and what am I not so good at, and things that I can work on if I do need to be better at those things. So I don't know kind of where to go from here. It is. I learned that everything that I do is I've got to spend time thinking about it. I've got to work through it in my head before I can do anything physical or before I can do anything expressive.
Right. Well, that's in order for you to be at your best. Gay Hendricks wrote a book called The Big Leap.
Yeah.
Have you read that book?
Yeah.
I love this as a little book. Like my book is a little book, right? I love these little books. And in The Big Leap, he talks about the zones, and in particular, the zone of genius, right? Yeah. Your zone of genius is this right here, and it's a lot of this. And so if we're doing everything this way, connecting with people, being productive, obviously being creative, right? And moving people forward, getting people from where they are to where they want to be, which you are amazing at doing when it comes to my body, right? But you do it from here.
Right.
This is one of the reasons why I love working with you, is because you don't just go crackety crack crack. You're like, here, let me explain what's going on. And every time I come here, I learn something. And for me, that's a secondary, but I love that, right? And so when you're doing that at your highest level, you actually do this bottom strength your way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
Which I need to do.
Which we'll talk about that, yeah.
And maybe we'll get into that in just a second. Because it's one that I really wish that I were good at. It's one that I wish that it was a strength of mine, but I know it's not, because when I try to do it in other people's ways, it backfires.
You get weird.
I can't do it. When I try.
We all get weird. That's how it is. We get weird when we try to do this.
Because if I want to be successful and I see somebody that I want to emulate, who is successful in the way that I want to be successful, then if I try to do it their way, I can't do it. It backfires and it doesn't feel good, and either to me or to the person that I'm trying to influence. Even though my intentions are 100% right, it's just coming across wrong because it's not authentic to who I am.
That's it.
And what my strengths are.
That's it.
That's really the value, in my opinion, to what all of this is. Now, I'm going to show you really quickly. This is the report that was generated. Hard to see. Yeah. But basically, it's 30. It's a lot of pages.
There's a lot of pages.
Yeah, the report itself, and this is the report itself is 25 pages.
Well, let's think about that, man. We are infinitely unique beings. That means we are something that's never happened before. This stack of papers here, we got about 20. That's nothing compared to what's unique about you, right? And spend the whole rest of our life learning this stuff.
Well, and that's really, and I'm going to bring this back to you really quickly. That's why a coach is helpful, because I've got a lot of data here, and if I live up here, then I've got to sort through all this stuff myself, and I've got to process everything, and it's exhausting. You can't, especially for someone who's not familiar with this. it's really nice to have somebody to bounce a couple thoughts off of, just to try to narrow things down and really make sense of it in my head, which is where I live.
Yeah.
And so that's the whole purpose of having a coach. I actually have a practice coach. I have a mentor that I use, and I actually pay him as a coach, because he has the practice that I like, but I can't just emulate him. I can't just do what he does, because again, it backfires. I have to figure out, how do I get myself to that position using some of the strategies that he uses. And so having a strengths coach is really helpful and important, because I can't sort all this information out on my own, but I want to get good at it.
Yeah.
I want to understand who I am better, and I want to understand my wife, and I want to understand my kids when the time, obviously now, and then later when we understand things better and they're able to do something like this. I think it'll be really fun to go through this stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's really fun.
When you get really into this, and with yourself, and then you do it with your spouse, you're starting, you look at your kids differently. Like, it's almost like the movie The Matrix, where all the green stuff is coming. All of a sudden, this weird green code starts to make sense, and it starts to take shape.
Yeah.
And you start to look at your kids going, oh, I get it. This is why my son, I know he's like you, because he asks millions of questions. He has an endless supply of questions, right? Because you remember when you were little, I don't even have to ask this. I know when you were little, you asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Right? You were constantly curious about things. And how did the adults around you handle that?
Sometimes they handled it really well, and sometimes they
Most
got frustrated because I was taking things apart to understand them, and I wasn't able to put them back together yet. And really, it was just
Right. So that's my son, and he's trying to deal with that. If my wife and I didn't understand that about him, then we would get frustrated because it's overwhelming, right? My wife is an executor, which means she's productive.
Right.
She's just like, hey, what are we getting done? And if this kid's going to keep asking me a million questions, we're not getting anything done, son. You know what I mean? And then that can lead this little 8-year-old boy to believe that who he is wrong.
Right.
You and I both
desire
know.
for knowledge is wrong.
Yeah, like your desire.
not.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not. That's absolutely who you are, and we need it. And so being able to look at my son that way has helped me and my wife, like, love my son for who he is. And so now my son and I are doing a podcast.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we just did our first episode yesterday, and that boy can talk. I just asked him a simple question, and all I got to do is say, hey, son, stay on the mic. You know what I mean? That's it. And he is so happy. And it's like, I'm celebrating who he is. And if we could do that for kids, especially teenagers, it's huge, right? But where it starts is here, right here, with our report, and then so on. So I love this stuff.
Well,
so much.
and I'm going to talk about something that's a little bit hard. A little bit, I had a patient come in about a week and a half ago.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how this great family, there was a lot going on, and one of the children ended up taking her life.
Okay.
Then this is not a long time ago. And I know over the past year and change, year and a half especially, there's been a lot of that. And I wonder, obviously, if we don't know what's going on in their head, we don't know. But if we did understand what's going on better, if we understood what our children, how our children better, their most effective ways of communicating to us, and so the most effective ways for us to communicate with them, if we truly understand who they are, then, and this family was totally surprised. It came in completely out of the blue.
Out of nowhere, yeah.
Which it happens a lot in those situations. And that I cannot even fathom. My kids are 9, 5, and 3. I cannot fathom the depth of sadness that would
lead to
take
that.
over my life if that happened, and what they must have been going through up to that point. I do feel like I had clinical depression for about a year when I was in high school. Okay. And I was never medicated or anything like that, and I was able to get out of that. And it never came to that. I never, it was never like that. But I do know that I do believe that if communication were on point, and if I understood how much my parents loved me at that point, and I understood, all the things that were going on in my life in a better way, then it would have been much, much easier for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm not casting any blame on my parents. I have nothing.
Well, they were just, they were just as disempowered as we are.
They're managing,
without the
just
stuff.
just like I'm managing day to day.
Yeah.
And so I don't hold any grudge or anything like that. It's not about that.
Right.
and I own that as who I am as a person now. But if we're able to understand each other better and understand ourselves better, then we're able to better express who we are to the people around us.
Oh, yes. That's the beautiful thing here is there's language here to explain our strengths, to be able to explain what makes us unique, like what's in our heart. Like when I look at your number 5 strength, for example, to be able to articulate that to people is powerful because we can't, some of us don't have the vocabulary to explain what's going on in here. And so when you got somebody who's, let's say, a teenager who wants to get something out, but they just can't.
Right.
And nobody sees it.
Yeah.
And then they feel I'm wrong. And so if I'm wrong, I need to get rid of it.
Right.
And then
well, and what if somebody's talking from here and the listener's listening from here?
Yeah. Right.
You know.
And understand those concepts.
Yeah.
That's hard stuff. They don't teach that in school.
Yeah.
And
no,
our parents didn't know.
We don't learn great communication from school.
No.
We learn learn things the way that the teachers want us to.
Right.
And so
we learn how to pass tests.
This is way above and beyond, which is what we should all strive for. We should all strive for above and beyond.
Right.
You know, that which we've already gotten. So instead of talking in abstracts, let's talk about some examples. I've got my strengths report here. I'm going to lay it all out there for you guys. You know, this is
good. We're going to break down this guy.
That's right.
You're only going to get to know him on such a deep level right now.
That's right. And so this is not really to talk about me necessarily, but this is just to talk about
to help understand
a reality of, you know, this is what a report looks like, and this is how you would help somebody like me, you know, as a coach.
Yeah. So do you want me to start breaking this down? All right, let's do this. Okay, so first off, just to wrap up the conversation on teenagers especially. I coach a lot of people, thousands of people, and I coach some teenagers as well. And the thing that I've learned that's a pattern. You and I both focus on patterns. We both have the same number 1 strength. But one of the things I've noticed as a pattern is that teenagers know who they are better than adults do. But they are being told that who they are is wrong more than adults are.
Now, on purpose?
Oh no, I know it's just part of our
of
our culture. It's part of our society, and that's what they're hearing. Because one of the things that all people do is compare themselves to other people. Some people are energized by it, and some people aren't. Right. And so when the majority of people are not energized by that, it's like a beat down. It's like a constant nagging, like, oh, you're not enough, or you're too much. You're not enough, or you're too much. It's wrong. You have to work some balance because the people around you can't handle it or don't understand it.
Right.
Right. And so if we can, what I love about strengths with teenagers in particular is that when I go through this report with a teenager, I don't get this like this big revelation. In fact, I never once get a teenager go, oh, like shock.
It makes sense now.
This big shocking thing. It's really just, I already know that.
Right.
But what you're doing is helping me believe that that's what it's supposed to be. And now I've found my value. Now I've not found it, but I've been validated in my value. You know what I mean?
Which is so important.
Man, if we could just do this. Now it's not this end all solution, but it's a major contributor.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your strengths report so people can understand this.
Yeah.
So the first thing we look at is the big picture. Start with the macro before we get into the micro. So the macro is how you are similar to most people, but still you.
Right.
In your top 10 strengths, so we'll be able to show a little bit of this. So there you go. So you can see this. So I'll turn it a little bit. So over here we've got his top 10 here, and the rest of his 34 over here. This top 10 is the zone of genius, and what that zone is based on how many certain strengths you have of 4 different category domains. Okay. So just to help everyone understand, each of these domains, which is these 4 categories that all these strengths are broken into, have their own unique desire that must be honored. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. It must be honored with everything you do, and what we want to do is help other people see the value of it. For you, depending on how many of these strengths you have in your top 10 would show the intensity of that desire. Okay? For you, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strategic thinking strengths in your top 10. So what does that mean? It's obsessive. Anything 3 or more is a lot. in your top 10, and you've got 5 of them. That means that number 1 out of all of these strengths here, the main desire is to think, to create, and or learn. And for you with 5, it's all of them. Am I thinking? Am I creating? Am I learning? Like that's look at this. You got a podcast. This is the creation part. You are energized by this because you're taking knowledge and you're creating with it. And then when you go on your walks, your time alone.
Right.
Because that's important for you.
I love time alone.
Yeah, it's required.
When I run, when I'm on a bike, I never listen to music.
Yeah.
Because I'm fine. Because I'm just thinking things through.
So you can think about that. Like, since you're energized by being by yourself, oh my gosh, what does that mean as a parent? Does that mean that I don't like my kids because I need to be by myself? And sometimes the kids can go overwhelming and you're like, you know what, right now I love you, but I need to be by myself right now. And so kids don't understand it. They're like, oh my gosh, my dad doesn't like me. He wants to be by himself. But what we want to do is teach our children, no, this is me being me. I got to take a walk so I can analyze and theorize and visualize and strategize, right? Take complex ideas and break them down and make them small so that I can come back and go, boom, 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 boom. Here you go. I figured it out, right? And that's an energizing process.
Yeah.
And you're married to, I would imagine, a very executing, powerful type of woman, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Who doesn't understand that you can't just answer questions right away, especially if they're really difficult or complicated. Like, honey, why do you do this when I say this? Right? Look at you, you're just grinning. Right. Right? And that's okay. That's cool because I'm married to one too. Sometimes, like, hey, look, honey, you're hitting me with heavy stuff. And I know you want my answer right now, but you got to give me a time. You got to give me a little time. Let me take a walk and I'll come back with the greatest answer ever and it'll be true and honest. I can't do things that way. So these are just some thoughts about strategic thinkers. Does any of this hitting home?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So strategic thinking, right? Honoring the desire to think and create and learn. So when you're doing everything with that, you're influential, you're creative, you connect better, and you're more productive. Your way.
Yeah.
Not other people's way.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you've got there's 3 other domains, which is relationship building, influencing, and executing. You've got 2 relationship building, which means, okay, you can do that. Yeah, that's cool, but it's not as important as the thinking and creating and learning. You've got 2 executing, which is like, yeah, we got to get stuff done, but it's got to start with the thinking and the creating and the learning.
Yeah.
And then you've got 1 influencing strength, which is a very powerful one in your top 10, which is significance, which means that I am here to make a difference in the world. You wake up in the morning and it's almost as if God is looking at you going, are you doing something right now to make a difference in the world? Do you know that feeling?
Yeah.
It's in your heart. It's intense. It's oftentimes scary and painful and overwhelming because it's like that feeling of, am I putting a crack in the earth and saying, Dr. Erickson was here?
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, how is that a motivator for you when it comes to, so here, by the way, let me explain this real quick. So a desire to make a difference in the world, but all of your energy goes to here. So when you feel that overwhelming desire to make a difference in the world, what is the first thing you want to do that's up here?
Figure out how.
It's
always figure out how. I don't know what to do yet.
So you go right into the learning.
I need to figure out how to do that.
One
way that I've figured out how to do that is just sit down in front of a camera and do a podcast.
Okay.
Because I don't know, what else am I, that's it. Okay, I'll do that.
You talked about mentors, you talked about coaches, and you read books, you listen to other people who have done it, and you're just gathering information. You have strategic number 1, which means you recognize multiple different ways of doing things, so you expose yourself to doing more things. Ideation is number 2, which means you get ideas and you see things that most people don't. You see little details where most people are focusing on this big thing over here. You're like, but over here is this little thing, and if we just focus on this, everything will change or be better. Right? This is why you're so awesome at looking at x-rays, because you're seeing little things that most people would gloss over.
Right.
Learner, gathering information and then including it right into your DNA, and then you're able to regurgitate and teach it to other people. You can read a book and then teach that book to the class, right?
Yeah, you need to understand it.
Yeah, and then analytical, breaking down facts and data and proof so that you match that with your ideas. So facts and proof, ideas, and that brings truth. This is what we're going to do to make a difference in the world. and then intellection, which is fascinating. So intellection is knowing that there is a depth for everything. Everything has interest, like everything has a meaning, and that meaning has a meaning, and that meaning has a meaning,
Yeah.
and that meaning has a meaning, and it's endless, it's bottomless. You know, it's part of like, it's like going on a journey and discovering the meaning of life,
Yeah.
and then discovering there's more to this. Like you're the kind of person that would be stimulated by the idea that the time in all eternity is infinite. And that means you have infinite knowledge to gather, infinite wisdom. Look at this smile right here is the strength smile. It's when somebody is honoring who you are, you can't help it but smile like that. Because it just feels like you see me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you put all those things together and all that adds up to making a difference in the world your way. Okay, so I'll breathe for a second.
Now, one thing that I've noticed about myself also, and this I've noticed since I was really probably a missionary or just prior to being a missionary, I often find myself playing the role of devil's advocate because I feel like I need, if I don't understand something perfectly and I see a crack in an argument or something that I don't, if I don't understand it perfectly, then I figure out a way to dissect that until I know it, until I do understand it perfectly. And what that does is
understand it perfectly. Ooh, that's cool.
It starts to bear down on me because I don't understand everything perfectly. And it's a really hard thing to do is feel like, yes, I understand this perfectly. I have a perfect testimony of this, or I have a perfect understanding of, so that I can sell my product, which is my service to other people, with perfect confidence. And so that's why, pardon me, that's why I spend a lot of my time studying chiropractic, studying adjusting, becoming the very best at what I can be, because I can't live with myself selling something that I don't perfectly believe that I am able to deliver on.
Right.
And so that, these strengths bear that, I bear the burden of those.
Yeah, because
needing to express myself that way.
If the minute that you get to the point where you feel like you know it all, that's when you stop growing. That's when you stop bringing value to other people.
Right.
Right? So as long as you're always in this place of, I have more to learn, then you will always be massively valuable. You will always, this is I can't remember, this guy named Chris Brady wrote a book, and my brain is breaking, I can't remember the name of it, but it was talking about how we all hit this pinnacle where we grow. What happens is what we stop is when we stop growing and all we want to do is prove that we're right. If we could realize that that's where we dip and that's where we drop and that's where we become like devalued,
right,
is when we're trying to prove something versus learn something,
right, or express something,
Yeah. So this is express the never-ending quest for knowledge and truth, because every time you discover some new truth, boom, there's more questions now.
Right.
And embrace that. Because that's where you're best.
And that's what understanding this about myself does for me. It allows me to embrace that and say, okay, pardon me, at a certain point, done beats perfect. When I'm doing a project.
Done beats perfect, yes.
And even if I don't understand this perfectly, I know that I understand it better than most people.
Sure.
Because I put it forth a lot more effort than, because that's what I am obsessed with, to use the word that you used.
There it is, obsessed.
I'm obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And so I have to at some point break it off and say, all right, I'm going to focus on something else, and I'm going to continue learning this particular thing over more time.
Yeah.
If I have to.
Brilliant, right?
So that's understanding who I am.
So we're putting all this emphasis on knowledge, right? But there is no emphasis on being entertaining or charming.
Sorry.
So you see what I mean? That's it. But
here, what you get.
Exactly. So that's why your number 34th strength is a strength called woo. So woo is an acronym. It means win others over. To be energized by turning total strangers into raving fans.
Right.
That kills you.
Which I wish I were really good at.
Right. But that's the whole thing is, dude, you've won me over. Like, you have won me over in spades. But not by being charming, right? By being focused on this quest for knowledge. And having this massive desire to make a difference.
Right.
So it's like, here's knowledge. We're going to make a difference. We're going to get you from where you are to where you want to be. I don't need you to be charming. I don't need you to be charming in that way, in like the opposite way, where like me, woo, as you can probably tell, is my number three strength. No, wait, my number four strength. Woo is like where I could go into a room and I'm like, okay, I'm going to turn all of these people into like fans of who I am. And that energizes me. That fires me up. That allows me to be in all of my top strengths, three of which are strategic thinking. So I love to share knowledge, but not at the intensity that you do, right? Which this is why we offset each other. Anyway, long story short, if you go into a room thinking you have to be something flashy, you are not being something intelligent and deep and spiritual like you are, right? So we miss that.
Yeah, that lowest strength takes away from my strongest strengths.
Yeah, it literally it moves you away from where you are best here. Competition is your 31st strength. So
which surprises me.
Well, this is the thing. You've been talking about how comparing yourself de-energizes you. Yeah. That's all competition is seeing what other people are doing and wanting to best it instead of learn from it. Right?
Right.
See, like for me, competition is my number 8 strength. And that means that for me, if I see someone on stage doing something that I want to do, I get excited by wanting to do it better than them. And that doesn't mean putting them down.
Right.
It means doing it my
Elevating
way.
Elevating yourself.
Yeah. Like, so when I see other people, I'm just like, I gravitate towards those people. When I think about your knowledge, I'm like, wow, I want to know everything he knows and more. So I hang around with you. I ask you questions.
Right.
I talk about things that maybe don't make sense, but it's so that I can get more information from you so that I can improve what's going on here. And maybe I can teach it to other people. Like, I would love to be the kind of person who gets on stages and shouts from the rooftops how wonderful you are and what you do here. Like, that excites me, right? And then when I come in here, I'm like, okay, what more information can I get from you so that I can go take it out in the world and tell everybody about it? You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of competition in there. It's like I'm not saying I want your knowledge. I want to be better than you as far as knowledge. I want to do what you do better, but my way.
Right.
Without adjusting and making people align with their physical body. I want them in line with their spirit.
Right. And if I were to stand up, if I were asked to stand up, especially on short notice, and say, all right, express, really well what you do and how you do it, and entertain everybody. In the meantime, I'd be like, where do I start?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's all it's all great information, and I love information. And so being able to, order it in a way that's going to be pleasing to other people, that's not something that I'm really good at.
Right.
And
Harmony is low. Harmony is low because if you worry about whether or not people are going to understand or like you, it's going to kill you too.
And so I know when I try to be charming, when I try to get in, when I try to, be entertaining, that's the most awkward that I've ever been. And it's sad to me, but it's just not who I am.
Right? Don't be weird. Be here, and you are amazing here, and it's cool. It's always cool,
and it's fun. That's one thing because as a chiropractor, I don't know if I've talked really about this. I feel like chiropractic really has been my calling. I had a really, really amazing experience in California when I was on my mission. I didn't know what I was going to be. I talked about this maybe in my first podcast. I was thinking about being a trauma surgeon, an ER doc or something, or a physical therapist or something. But I knew it was going to be physical, but I didn't know what. And we went to a chiropractor's office in Barstow, in my very first area in California. And I had the most amazing and obvious spiritual experience to say, it wasn't a commandment. It wasn't like, you be a chiropractor. It was like, you need to think about, you need to look into becoming a chiropractor. And so it was a decision that I had to make on my own. But it definitely came across as a calling, not as a commandment, but as a calling. Yeah. And it's been very difficult for me because over the years, it's a difficult profession to be in anyway, because my personality doesn't lend itself to being really outspoken and really,
a salesman.
Come and see me, come to my office. Right. I'm not like that. Right. And so that's been really difficult. And so to get myself into a position here where, yes, this office, I'm going to admit, is very successful. And we have a lot of great reviews, and it's because I've had to figure out who I am and how I can influence people in a better and different way than anybody else, for me. Mm-hmm. And it's only for me. And so if I want to make my office more successful in some way, I've got to figure out how to do it through myself and not through anybody else. I've purchased, advertising that's worked very well for other doctors, and it's just been a complete waste of money for me. A lot of different things, because this office is very unique to who I am. I've had to build it that way because every time I've tried to build it somebody else's way, I fail. And I have failed 3 times as a chiropractor in different businesses. And so this one, when we started this, we knew it was going to be successful. We knew it was, because we'd already nailed down a lot of the things that I had to figure out on my own to be who I am. And then knowing this kind of stuff is just gravy at this point. It's just like saying, all right, oh, that's why I'm not good at doing that.
Yeah.
And so I can avoid making those same mistakes again for the better reasons than having learned the hard way.
Yeah, you're not done hitting barriers.
Right.
And what we're teaching and what we're learning here is how to hit the next barrier as fast as possible, recognize it's a barrier, and go back to the basics. How did I get to this barrier to begin with, and how do I use that to push through?
Right.
Can I just share with you, and I'll stop talking on this, but the feeling I get with your chiropractor office is it's not just a place to get adjusted. It's a place to learn about us. It's a place to come and go, teach me about my body. Help me understand what's going on with my body. Help me understand the value of it, and help me stay in alignment. Right?
Right.
This is more than just a chiropractor's life. It's a school. It's a school, and you're the teacher, right? And and when your people in the front office, they bring people, and we sit in this traction table, which is my favorite. The traction table.
It's everybody's favorite.
When you lay on that traction table, the traction table is preparing me for the lesson. The lesson. And when I'm laying on your table and getting adjusted, it's almost like I can hear your thinking. You're going, okay, yeah. You take your fingers and you run along my back and you go, okay, oh, this is good. And then, bam, quack, 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 you do your fun stuff, which is so cool. But it's a lesson. It's like I'm getting an education on me when I come in here. And I want to say that's exactly what your strengths line up with. And that's why people come here, because they get you at that's that genius that you got. So,
well, thank you, first of all. And that's what I've had to figure out over the years.
Yeah.
How do I make the office attractive to people to come in? And it's not because of me necessarily. It's because of what we're trying to accomplish. And it's kind of, the book by Sinek, start with, was it?
Simon Sinek, Start with
Simon
Why?
Sinek, yeah, Start with Why.
Yeah.
And I've had to figure that out. I just actually finished listening to that one last week.
That's a great book.
It really is.
Holy cow.
And if we can create an environment that's attractive to people, then you don't have to be like me to like me as a chiropractor, right? And there are people who come in that don't jive with that. They don't, this is not the place for them. And that's fine, because there are, lots of other chiropractors, and they will find some place that they're happy, as long as I don't turn them off, through chiropractic, which would absolutely, terrify me.
Yeah, that would kill you.
A lot of that would really be terrible.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That my office is not for everybody, but I want it to be for as many people as want it. And so that's, I don't know, for me, for these strengths, individually, and that's really the thing. If you multiply 27 by 27, that's how many possible iterations there are of different people, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't know exactly how the math works, because there's a whole.
I think it's
algorithm.
27 to the 27th power.
Okay. You mean 30? Are you saying 27?
I'm sorry, 34.
34.
34 to the 34th power.
I was like, what do you mean by 27? I'm losing something.
Yeah.
So yeah, 34 to the 34th power. Is that what it is?
I think that's what it is.
Well, okay. I only know some numbers based on what people have told me. I'm not an analytical. It's you. But I know that the chances of anybody having the same combination from 1 through 34 is massive.
Right.
It's way more than there have ever been people. And so that was where I was like realizing, okay, that's all I need to know to explain this point. Infinitely unique.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever 34 to 34th power is, I don't need to know that, because I got you or people like you to explain this to me. And then I go and I take it and I do it my way. Which is cool.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so
That's crazy.
I know by looking at this that there probably isn't another person alive that has the exact same order of strengths
There probably never will be.
because I'm unique.
Yeah.
And that uniqueness is what gives me strength. That uniqueness is what gives me, that purpose. Because if I'm not here, there's nobody like me that can replace me.
Keep going. Keep going. There's more, right? Think of the whole world. Every human being that's ever lived as a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
And every puzzle piece is obviously not perfectly shaped.
Right.
Right? Every puzzle piece has its outside and inside. Its holes and its, we'll call it limbs, right?
Right.
And we need each other to fill the holes, and we need each other to fill holes for other people, which means that we're not supposed to be everything for everyone, which means that we're supposed to be really good at some things and not good at others. That's how it's supposed to be. If we can help anybody just realize that, I know for a fact there would be less suicides, which is I think one of the number one
My head went right back there as well.
cause of death for teenagers, I think, is suicide, right? And that, it's insane.
It is insane.
But it is only because this truth hasn't sunk in. No one's taught it. The way that I teach strengths, the reason why I do this is because no one is teaching it.
Yeah.
I had to write a book because no one was teaching it. Even Gallup isn't teaching what I teach. What I just shared here, that's not even coming from Gallup. That's coming from what I discovered. It's me filling in gaps that someone else could not have ever filled in had I not done what I've done. And that means you got that spot to play, that you watching this, you've got that part to play. By just being you bring something that no one has ever or will ever or can ever bring. We need you. If people would understand that they're needed, they would try a little harder, they would push through,
Yeah. And not only are we able to better honor who we are as people when we understand ourselves better, we also honor our Creator, who has put us down here
Of course.
to fill our piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And of course he knows what's going to happen. Of course he knows what's the future history of the world and every individual in it. But how do we best honor ourselves and our Creator if we don't understand who we are and take steps to improve our understanding of that and magnify that?
Mm-hmm. So much to talk
So
about. We could go on for hours. There is so much to talk about. So much awesome stuff.
It's just a great tool, and this is why I wanted to have you on, because I really believe that this is one of the best, if not the best that I'm aware of, tools to understand who I am and to say, you know what, there are things I'm not good at, and that's okay, because there are things that I'm really good at, and I can own those things. I don't have to be shy about saying that I'm really good at certain things, because I am. I believe in my office, I'm a very good adjuster. I think I'm the best adjuster in the valley, if not the state.
There we go. Look at that. And with competition low, you can say that. That's amazing.
Love
it.
Because I work really hard on who I am. And for people
yes.
who come in here, if I'm in tune with what I believe their needs are and what I feel their needs are, then I can get it done. That's having that confidence and that understanding it shouldn't need to embarrass me, or shouldn't need to I shouldn't feel bad about feeling good about things that I'm good at.
That you've worked hard and sacrificed for. You've bled for.
Yeah.
You've suffered for. Gosh, man.
Man, if I paid for it.
You paid for it. You paid for it. And then you paid for it in a way that you can't deny. You know what I mean? It's holy cow, what an awesome thing. I feel like going on a tangent, but maybe I should. How long is your show usually? Because I could do a 5-hour show on this.
Right.
So slow me down if we need to wrap up at any point in time. But there's this thing that you were saying that made me kind of realize this is a really cool thing to help people understand. Is that if I don't know of any other tool as good as this or better to help us articulate what it is we're supposed to bring to the table.
There you go.
But the concept, this one last concept is imagine. I want you all to imagine this, whether you want to believe it or it's true or not, even though I've seen it. For the last 3 years of my life, I see it every day. Imagine a world where all you have to be is who you are at a high level. And all the things that you are not, somebody else is there to fill in that void. Like a spouse who is not meant to be like us.
Yeah.
Supposed to be different.
Yeah.
But we're taught in marriages and partnerships that you have to be similar. It's not true. It's actually, I've noticed the best marriages work when the two people are very different and they honor those differences. My wife is an executor. She makes lists and get things done. That's not me at all. I have no energy. I don't have joy in writing down things to do and checking off the list. I have zero joy. Right? You're kind of like that too. What I get joy out of is doing what you do, like, which is learning, but also like talking to people, finding out where they are, and finding out where they want to go and how they want to get there and how I can help. Because if I'm not helping, then what's the point?
Right.
That's me as an influencer. You've got 5 strategic thinking strengths, which is sharing your knowledge. I've got 5 influencing strengths, which is helping people understand where they are, who they are, how they can do everything their way, and help them get there. And then like celebrating when they get there and knowing that I got to be a part of it. It's not me, it's I got to be a part of it. I had a front row seat. That's awesome. That's what fires me up.
And there's your smile, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I get excited. Where my wife would put this smile on her face when she thinks about checking lists and boom, 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 boom. She would be like, "That's awesome."
Yeah.
And that's why I married her, because she had what I didn't have, but not to teach me to be that. I didn't marry my wife to teach me to be her.
Right.
I married my wife. Now I realize it. I married my wife because I needed that. And every time she does something that is so the opposite of what I would do, in the past, I would get all frustrated until I realized, well, Eddie, that's why you married her. Why would you marry somebody who's different than you and then get them to be you? That's stupid.
Right.
But that's what we do. And I think that's one of the reasons why marriages end, because the one person's tired of trying to make the other person them and it's not working.
Yeah.
Or tired of being in a place where they're constantly being made to be like the other one and it's not working.
Well,
so there you go.
And I think there are 2 words there. The first one is understanding, and the second is honoring.
Yes.
Right? You can't honor the person if you don't understand them.
Right.
And I think that's, in my own marriage, that's something, and I'm not trying to give too much information here, but I think because no marriage is perfect. Every couple.
It's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be. That's a great thing.
But really, it's just a lack of understanding. Mm-hmm. Why are you doing it that way? Why are you doing that at all? Right? Mm-hmm. It's a lack of understanding. I know I wouldn't do that, or I know I would do this. Yeah. So why don't you do that? Because I don't understand why she's doing it. I don't understand her motivation. I don't understand the way that I need to, what her strengths are, and how she's expressing that through her actions or inactions.
Right. So when we understand those things, it helps us to understand that we're not supposed to be everything. And if we understand we're not supposed to be everything, then we can just focus on what we are supposed to be. And 100 times out of 100, you'll discover that's wonderful. It's fun.
And that's when you can honor it.
And that's when you can honor it. It's great. It's awesome. What? All I got to do is read a whole bunch of books and share information with people to help them get where they want to be and just not have to be fancy. That's all? Yeah. And do it a lot. Right? And the joy that comes, like your whole body just goes like crap, drops off your shoulders, like just like that. It melts off. And I feel like that's what our Creator wants us to discover. It's like they're sitting, he's looking at you and going, son. Right. You don't have to, but he can. He's got to help. You got to figure it out, right? And he puts these wonderful people like Don Clifton into our world, who, by the way, his number 5 strength was it was maximize. No, his number 5 strength was significance. So similar to yours. Yeah. Significance was number 5, which was to make a difference in the world. And then his number 1 strength was maximizer, which was to focus on what's great and make it better. Those were his strengths. And that's what Don Clifton did for us. He said, we're going to make a difference in the world by only focusing on what's great about you. No more of this crap talk about weaknesses and developing those to be more well-balanced. We're just going to focus on what's great. And boom, my life has changed, and I get to help other people change theirs.
Well,
it's amazing what that man did.
It's
right?
awesome.
And God puts these people, like when we honor that, boom, we feel those things and we become those people. We can all be people that are going to make a difference in the world. All of us, our own way.
Well, and I don't want to be, all raw about this, because I think there's a certain, trying to sell. I'm not, and you're not trying to sell something.
No.
The thing is that occurred to me as I was thinking about sitting down with you and chatting, and this just kind of flashed into my mind, and so I do think it's important. because we've got little kids, and
Yeah.
those little kids sometimes, I think of my 5-year-old girl, and she will be sad. She'll be sad about something, and it's like, why are you sad? You have so many things. It makes me sad that you're sad right now. And I know we all feel that for people around us sometimes. Yeah. And I thought about that in relation to what must be happening to God when he sees us being sad, when we don't necessarily need to be. Because we truly blessed, like beyond anything in this world has ever seen. I know that I have been. And so to feel like we're not able to express ourselves properly, to feel like we're not making the difference that we want to in the world, to feel like we're not reaching our potential, to feel like all these things, it's just because we don't understand ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so as far as this goes, this is a tool. And so that's why I want to sit down with you, because I love tools. I've got a garage full of tools. My bookshelf is full of tools, right? I love reading because I think I can get lots of tools from those things. This is a tool that we can use individually to find out better who we are and how we best express ourselves, and why we are not perfect. What are things why I'm not good at standing up in front of a crowd and being like, "Hey, look at me, I'm awesome." Just thinking about it. Why am I not good at it? Because it's my weakest strength. I don't win people over through traditional means. If I do win people over, it's because I know what my strengths are and I'm able to use those.
Yeah.
And so taking those and
when we're being who we are at a high level, we make it clear what our value is, what we bring to the table. That's it. Yeah. Right? Like we know, oh, okay, I know what I'm getting, and I'm gonna come here for that. And I'll always come here for that. Yeah. I don't need, but if we're not honoring who we are, then who are you? What are you doing? What's your value? What are you trying to, I don't understand what you're trying to do to be of value to other people. Yeah. If you're trying to be everything for everyone. When you just honor it and you know what it is, you honor it and you say, I love, or I need to, or I have to, or I get to do everything in a way that honors my desire to think and create and to learn, right? When I do that, I love to do that. Everyone goes, oh man, I love that. Now I feel free to just be who I am.
You know what just occurred to me? If people come in and I'm expressing myself through my strengths, and they reject that, they reject me, they're not rejecting me. They're rejecting those strengths. They're rejecting those things that I'm expressing. And so it's not a rejection.
It's a personal issue for them.
And it's not necessarily, maybe they don't value what I do in my profession, and so they reject me in that way. I don't have the right to take that personally if I'm expressing myself through the best ways that I can. I can't.
Yeah, you're just being you. You have no other choice.
And so they're just rejecting what I'm offering.
Sure.
And so it's not me as a person. It's just the expression of what I'm trying to do for them.
Can I point out the two strengths that are showing exactly what you're talking about?
Please do.
Just real quick. Okay, so relator. Okay, so relator is your number 8. And then includer is your 27. Okay, let me talk about these two strengths real quick. So relator is, people of high relator have a very high demand for real, honest, truth, no fake,
right?
No superficial. Relators just need depth. Don't talk to relators about the weather. It's de-energizing. It's boring. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Right? So if I just go, oh, this weather is looking good, I would never talk to you about the weather, right? That would be awful.
Yeah, it's hot.
And that's it. Let's move on. But so relators have this high demand for having the right people in their world. The right people. The right people doesn't mean people like you, because there is no such thing. The right people are people who jive with you, who are in alignment with you, with what you're doing. And there are lots of people out there. There's millions of people out there like that. And then being okay with the wrong people making their way out.
Yeah.
Being okay with that.
I often say in my office, I only want people here that want to be here.
That's it. That's like, it's not even just your office.
Right.
It's your family.
Yeah.
Or you're just this 6-foot radius around you. I don't know why I chose that word, but there's just this radius around you. I only want people here that want to be here. See, a high includer doesn't want to be in charge of that. They want to let everyone in and then decide who should go. After they've already let everyone in, but you can already feel in your body,
Right.
that would be hard.
Right.
Because what you would rather do is keep everyone at a distance and then see who comes and go, okay, all right, cool, you can, you know. But if they're not coming, then that means they need to be out.
Right.
So that's what you're describing. That energizes you. That fires you up, right? Let's have some sort of a filter so that I'm only spending my time with the right people. Now, I can tell by looking at your strengths, you are not the kind of person to judge anyone by a cover. There's no cover.
Right.
It's really about what they say, what they do, how they behave, their energy, their vibe. When you're analyzing their body language, you take all that information, and then those that are coming, you're like energized by working with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's relator.
And the thing is, we actually do have filters set up in the office.
Shocker.
Everybody does, and it's not a conscious thing. It's a totally unconscious thing. We have something called an exam fee, right?
Okay.
And so if people don't have value for what we want to offer them, they don't want to pay for it. And so the exam fee is the first filter. If people don't have value for what we want, then they need to find someplace cheaper.
Right.
You know, they're not going to get the same service, and I expect they're not going to get the same level of service.
I know that.
You know, and so that's a filter. And going through and saying, yeah, I need you to come back because I'm going to go over your x-rays tonight. That's not intentionally put there to be a barrier to anybody, but people are going to bounce right off of that, you know, and it happens less and less. Because honestly, we are attracting really excellent patients that want to be here through doing all of this that we've been talking about the whole time. But if they come in and they say, oh, that's great, thanks so much, thanks for the adjustment, yeah, I'll show up or whatever, or I won't show up, and they're gone, that's another filter. And the third filter is saying, all right, this is what we're trying to accomplish. This is what it's going to take for me to help you in the way that you asked me to help you. And so laying out the plan and saying, okay, is this something you want to do? That's really our third filter. And it's not set up to push people away. It's set up to allow people through that really want to make the changes that we need to make. Because I can't be all things to all people.
Yes. No one can.
Right.
And when we think we're supposed to be, that's when we kill ourselves. That's when we start getting weird.
Yeah.
So cool. So awesome. Look at you. Shining.
I'm learning
right
so
now.
much, Eddie.
You're shining, brother. I love it. There's so much to talk about.
We probably ought to wrap it up pretty quick here.
Okay.
But yeah, I was looking a few minutes ago. I'm not sure how long we've been.
So for those of you that are watching or listening, let this guy know, did you enjoy this? Like, is this fun? Are you getting value from this? Because I just live down the road. And if he asks me to come back,
He
I'll
always
be here.
says he loves coming here. So.
I love being here. So if you all like this, if you're enjoying this, see, I'm going to apply the same filter. If you enjoy this and you want more of it, just say, hey, we want more of this.
Right.
And there's some tools and things we can give people to get started on their own too.
Absolutely. So let's talk, how do people get their strengths report?
Okay. So the where to take the assessment is Gallup.com, and that's GALLUP.com.
Is that the same as like Gallup poll?
Yeah,
that you
it's the
always hear
same
about?
company that poll. Like, there's a wonderful thing about Gallup is that this comes through research. This isn't some guy sitting there and looking at people and going, oh, it's not that. It's like insane amount of research they've done. Gallup are the kind of people that right now can tell you how the world feels. Like, that's how amazing their abilities are, their ability to gather information. And so that's where this comes from. So the Gallup.com, you go there and you have one or two options. You can just get your top 5, or you can get your full 34. The top 5 is nice and it's cute and all, but it's not enough. It is so not enough. So just get the full 34. It does cost $50. US dollars, by the way. I think it's like $100,000 in Canada or something. But you pay $50, and my friends, it's massively worth it. So to be able to understand who you are and articulate who that is and understand who your spouses are and so on.
Right.
So that's the place to go. Gallup does have some great books that are helping people understand strengths and so on. My book is Unleash Your Strengths, which I had to write it because there are things that Gallup isn't teaching, which is what I talked about today.
Right.
So all this stuff about domains and desires and thinking and learning and connecting and all that stuff, that stuff you can only get from my book, and that's Unleash Your Strengths is the book. And if you took the strengths assessment and immediately went to my book, that's what I would recommend. Only because it gives you that quick Like, okay, help me understand without having to go through massive amounts of data and information, like we talked about.
Where can they get the book?
Oh, unleashyourstrengths.net. Actually, you can get the book for free. So I'm making it available for anybody. They can just get it for free. All you got to do is pay for shipping, depending on where you are. And then on my Instagram, which is unleash underscore your underscore strengths. When you go on my Instagram, I actually have a free training in there. Well, you'll see it under the highlights section under Start Here. It'll say. So if you go to my Instagram and you find the button that says Start Here, you click on that, and then it'll take you through every step of taking this assessment and immediately started getting results from it.
What if I had some copies of your book here?
If you have a copy, wait, do you have?
If
copy?
you gave me copies.
Oh, I'll give you as many copies as you want.
Okay,
You
so
can
if
sell
you want,
those.
pick up a copy from me.
Oh my gosh, yes! Come to the office and pick it up. So I have plenty of first editions, which has an error on it, which I think makes it way more valuable. That's the story I'm telling myself. There's an error on the book cover. So I'll bring you a stack, and you can have the book with the error on the cover, which is great. Anyway, first edition, you have the error one, like error comic books, right? They have them way more valuable.
That's right, way more valuable.
That's the story I've told myself after we made the mistake. So I'm going to roll with that story.
And let's see, what else? So how do they get in touch with you if they want to get in touch with you?
So my Instagram is a good place. Facebook, I'm extremely active on there.
All Unleash Your Strengths.
So Eddie Villa on Facebook. I don't put Unleash Your Strengths on there, but and then of course you can Facebook message me. I can put my email address, which is eddie@eddiepvia.com. There's all kinds of places to get a hold of me. I have a community where we are constantly teaching and learning on how to use strengths to make money online, how to use strengths to be an influencer to help people, how to build businesses, how to build marriages, how to overcome trauma, which is something that we've learned recently about how strengths can show us where trauma is, and how to use strengths to overcome that. Because when you've gone through a traumatic experience, the last thing you want to be told is what's wonderful about you. But that is the healing source. That is the medicine. That is the thing that's going to shift things. So when I've learned trauma has a big, can be healed through strengths, which my own trauma was healed through it, we actually hired a full-time trauma therapist to come into our community and help people who have gone through trauma to use strengths to heal.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's incredible. And then of course, we've got team programs. We're helping people build their network marketing businesses, all kinds of stuff inside the Unleash Your Strengths community. We've got a free version of that on Facebook. So if you search on Facebook for the Unleash Your Strengths group is what it's called. You can sign on to there for free and get a little taste for what we do inside of our community.
So really, it's just about figuring out who you are so you can just be you better.
That's it. That's all you need to be.
So if you feel like you're not enough, you are. You are enough.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we just need to learn how to express ourselves in the ways that we were designed to, that we've never been taught.
Yeah. We need other people to help us with that.
We do.
We can't do it. Please, my friends, you're not supposed to do it alone. We're not meant to do it alone. Every time we try to do it alone, it just goes haywire. It's a mess.
It goes sideways.
Yeah, my whole life was like that until I finally said, okay, God, I'm done. I'm done now. It's your turn now. Help me figure this out, because I'm obviously messing all this up. So I'll end on that.
Okay. I'm going to put links in the description below, whether you're listening to the audio or watching on YouTube. We'll have links to all those things, so you can get in touch with Eddie. Certainly grateful for you coming out on a Friday morning and spending some time with me. It's been really fun, and I've had a couple epiphanies myself, and thought of some new stuff that I can start implementing in my own life. So
cool.
Grateful to you for everything you've done for me, and grateful you and your family are in our office and in my life.
Likewise, brother.
Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you.
Okay.
On that note, we're going to end. I hope you have a great week. If you need to get in touch with the office here, the phone number is 801-762-6940. You can find me on Facebook real easy, facebook.com/TimPchiropractic. Other stuff, we're pretty easy to find. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching or listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.